heard how the fact that you're here trying to develop a playbook and a sense of team and working together means a great deal to us. You know, I was just a little kid who went to public schools up in Brookline, Mass. I went to college on scholarship because I had great teachers in the Brookline school system. I went to Harvard Business School on scholarship, and then I had a dream. And you know, you're here living what I pinch myself every day that we're part of. I guess you saw the little film, and you know, it's people like you doing what you're doing to plant the seeds in Pete Brock's and my family and others, and I just can't thank you enough for the great work you do, and I hope any way we can continue to be supportive and part of your system. I hope your kids come here and see the history of this team and see the interactivity. Have you been through it? Yeah, so you'll see the learning experiences. But I just wanted to have a moment to come here and say thank you to all of you for the great job you do, and I don't think you get paid enough. Good audible. Now let's win. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a one-of-a-kind organization, I'll tell you that much right now. And the owner, who's created much of the success that we're experiencing around here, comes and wants to talk to everyone, and actually everyone. So, anyway, I stole a little bit of my thunder, but I'll talk to you later about that. Again, it's not accidental. Success is not accidental. And don't be overwhelmed by the goals that you set. Make sure that you have a game plan, a plan to execute against something that you can do each and every day. And what I was about to say, and I'll conclude my remarks with a story that changed my life. And so forgive me a little bit of bragging, but I want to illustrate what it is I'm talking about not letting a goal overwhelm you. In 1983, we were playing the Miami Dolphins here in Foxborough at the old stadium, obviously. And it was the 12th game of the season. And we were tied with the Dolphins for the lead in the AFC East. And I was having a particularly great year. I had never been injured in my career. I'd been hurt, but I had never been injured. And the first play from scrimmage that day, after we got the ball on our 20-yard line to start the game after the kickoff, Tony Collins, we were running a simple just off-tackle play. His foot caught in the turf, and his helmet drove to the outside of my knee. I was starting at center, and he drove to the outside of my knee. We're on the 20-yard line, and I was just finishing up a terrific block against Bob Baumhauer. But anyway, I went down, and I experienced a pain that I had never felt before. It felt like somebody had taken an axe and buried it in the side of my knee. And in fact, mechanically, my knee locked. I had that kind of pain where you just break into a cold sweat, and I wondered how I was going to get up off the turf. And I looked at the sidelines, was further away than the huddle. So I got back into the huddle. I drug my leg back into the huddle, and I got into the huddle, and John Hanna, who was my left guard, was right beside me. And I said to John, I have seriously injured my knee. Now, in the heat of battle, I might have said something different. That was a jest of what I was saying. And I'm trying to wiggle this thing out to get it so I can bend it. Steve Grogan's calling a play, and John Hanna said something to me that day that changed my life. He didn't mean to, but he said, "Can you go one more play?" And I said, "I believe I can." About that time, I got that knee to wiggle out a little bit. The pain was still there. We broke the huddle and got to the line of scrimmage. Now, I didn't want Bob Baumhauer to know that I have a lot of football to play today, and this thing hurts. I came off the ball and drove Bob Baumhauer as much as I could and got back to the huddle, and my knee now is locked straight. I couldn't bend it at all with the pain coming down. And I said to John, again, I have really seriously injured my knee. And he said, can you go one more play? On to ready, break. I believe I can. I got to the line of scrimmage. Now I could make this a very, very long story. 78 plays from scrimmage that day. 14 plays in that drive. We stuffed it into the end zone. Our defense held them third and punt. I got to the sidelines after we scored, 14 plays after I'd injured it. And the doctors were wiggle testing my knee like this. You know what they said to me? Pete, you have seriously injured your knee. I know, I've been talking about it. They tried to put a brace on it and everything. Dan Marino goes in threes and punt. I'm ripping out of it. Anyway, 78 plays from scrimmage, jogging around the inside of the locker room at halftime so it doesn't stove up, so it doesn't swell up so I can't play anymore. But one play at a time, one play at a time. If I had gotten on that injury, if I had taken a look and said to myself, how in the world are you going to make it to the fourth quarter, I would have quit. I would have said, if I said to myself, how are you going to go another 77 plays, I would have quit. But I could do it one play at a time. I could go to the line of scrimmage, do what I needed to do, and if at any point in time I was a realist enough to know that if I mechanically couldn't do it, that I would have hurt my team, I'd have gone and sat on the bench. But I did something that day that I don't know an awful lot of people could, but I did it because I was carried by my teammates. I have John Hanna saying, can you go one more play? And I gave it hell for that one more play because that could have been my last. What a magnificent way to go through a game, where you can give it all on one play because I thought it would be my last. And I never looked beyond that next play. I didn't look back and say, boy, he beat me bad on that one either, because I was just going to give him hell for that very, very next play. What an opportunity it was for me to learn how to approach anything I wanted to go after. I could describe, this is 1983. I retired in 1988. I didn't have an awful lot of time left in my career to figure all of this out, and I'm glad I did it that day. Don't let your goals overwhelm you. Do something each and every day. You can do anything. The old proverb, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. If you look at this gigantic thing, the fourth quarter in my experience, where you are currently at Avon and where you want to become, anything that you take on, you can accomplish one play at a time, one step at a time, one day at a time, one game at a time. In 1985, we finished 11-5, and no one thought we were going to be any good in the playoffs anyway. We were a wild card team, tied with the New York Jets. I hate the New York Jets. Tom Brady stole my line last week. I hate the New York Jets. We were tied with them for the wild card game. We had to go down to the Meadowlands to play them in a playoff game. We beat them with teamwork, with special teams, recovered a couple of fumbles. Our defense stopped them. We scored enough points to win the first away playoff game in New England Patriot history, 1985. Can you believe that? 25 years into this franchise's history, we won. I was part of a team that won the first away playoff game in franchise history. Now look what they've done. We won the second one the week after that against the Raiders in Los Angeles, and then had an opportunity to win the AFC Championship against the Miami Dolphins, and the Patriots were 0-19 in franchise history down in the Orange Bowl. And we showed up that day. It was a rainy, miserable, wet, muddy field, an offensive lineman's dream. Patriot coaching staff, Raymond Berry, and all of the brain trusts that they had broken film down, had come up with the game plan and charts and